This home cost $108 to heat for an entire winter. Not $108 a month, $108 for the whole season, in Princeton, New Jersey. And the comparable house next door paid $500. That was 1975. The design that made it possible has no moving parts, no furnace, no fuel line, no electricity, and no service contract. It heats itself using a wall, and it will still be doing that in 100 years. You're going to pay $634 this winter just to keep your house warm. If you are in the Northeast, it is $763. If you heat with propane, it is $1,231. If you heat with oil, it is $1,518. Every winter, month after month, you pay that number, and nobody has ever told you that a Princeton architect proved it did not have to be that way in 1975, and that the technology he used was patented in 1881. The design exists. The data exists. Multiple government labs spent hundreds of millions of dollars confirming it works. And in most of this country, your HOA can ban it by default, your building code will not recognize it, and no builder will offer it to you. That is not an accident. In this video, we are going to expose 3 specific things that removed this heating system from American homes: the budget cut that ended the research, the building code that rejects it on paper even though it works in practice, and the HOA clause that bans the design by appearance. It starts with a patent filed in 1881 by an American inventor named Edward Morse, who solved your heating bill 143 years ago. But the story does not begin with Edward Morse. It begins 2,400 years earlier, in ancient Greece, during a firewood crisis. The Greek cities had burned through their forests. The old way of heating homes was not working anymore, so they did something that no one in a modern home improvement store has ever suggested to you. They redesigned their entire cities around the sun. Socrates held classes on passive solar home design. This is documented. He described it in his own way. Now, in houses with a southern orientation, the sun's rays penetrate into the porticos, but in summer, the path of the sun is right over our heads and above the roof, so we have shade. He was describing an overhanging roof sized precisely to admit the low winter sun and block the high summer sun. He understood the geometry of seasonal solar gain in 400 BC. They did not just advise this, they built it. The city of Olynthus, built in 432 BC in northern Greece, was designed entirely around this principle. Every street ran east to west, so every house could face south. Then Priene. Then cities as far as Bulgaria. The ancient Greeks considered south-facing construction a mark of civilization. The playwright Aeschylus called people who did not build this way primitives, dwelling in sunless cavities. This knowledge survived for centuries, crossed the Atlantic, and landed in an American patent office in 1881. Edward Morse filed patent number 246,626, titled Warming and Ventilating Apartments by the Sun's Rays. A south-facing, dark-surfaced wall, a layer of glass in front, and an air gap between them. 2 vents to circulate warm air into the living space. The wall stores heat during the day and radiates it into the house at night. The patent was filed. It disappeared entirely for 80 years. It was rediscovered in France in the 1960s by an engineer named Felix Trombe, who built the first modern version of this system in 1967 without any knowledge that an American had patented the exact same design nearly a century earlier. So why, in 2026, are we paying $600 to heat our homes every winter with a solution patented in 1881? Think of your home the way it actually behaves on a sunny winter day. Sunlight comes through your south-facing windows. It warms the air. The house is getting free heat right now, and that heat is doing almost nothing because most homes are built to be fast to frame and cheap to construct. They are not built to hold energy. This is what the Morse patent addresses. On the south side of your home, you build a wall out of something heavy. concrete, stone, brick, adobe. You paint it black. You put glass in front of it, with a few inches of air gap between the glass and the wall. Sunlight passes through the glass and hits the dark surface. The wall gets hot. That heat conducts slowly through the thick mass, taking 8 to 10 hours to reach the inside face. That means the heat you collected at noon arrives in your living room at 10 o'clock at night, while you are sleeping, without the furnace turning on. This is a thermal battery. It charges during the day using free sunlight. It discharges overnight into your living space. No thermostat, no furnace, no motor, no filter to replace, no service call, no moving part of any kind. Douglas Kelbaugh built one in Princeton, New Jersey, in 1974. His south wall was 600 square feet of 15-inch poured concrete, painted black, faced with double-pane glass. His first winter, he spent $108 in backup fuel for the entire season. The comparable house next door paid over $500. The winter after that, his heating cost reduction was measured at 84%. The same design in Odelo, France, documented 70% of yearly heating needs met by solar alone. Annual heating cost was approximately $225 compared to $750 for a conventional home. The government lab studying this at the time, NREL's predecessor, the Solar Energy Research Institute in Los Alamos, New Mexico, documented that passive solar features add only 4 to 8% to construction cost. Payback was within 5 years. In cold climates with good sun, documented performance showed 70 to 90% of yearly heating energy from the sun alone. No moving parts. The lifespan of the wall is over a century. More than 200,000 residential passive solar buildings were documented in the United States. But the performance data is only half the story. The real question is why this technology, publicly funded, publicly proven, documented in over 200,000 American homes, virtually disappeared from home building by 1985. Between 1978 and 1981, the number of passive solar homes built in the United States grew 80-fold, not 80%, 80 times. The Solar Energy Research Institute had a budget of $130 million, larger than the combined renewable energy research budget of every other country on Earth. Nearly 1,000 people worked there. The institute ran a public home building program in Denver, a parade of homes where over 100,000 people toured passive solar model houses in a single weekend. 31 families bought them immediately. 60 more put down deposits. Then President Reagan took office. In 1981, the Solar Energy Research Institute budget was slashed from $130 million to less than $30 million. Staff was reduced from nearly 1,000 to 450 people. The institute's director, Denny Hayes, the founder of Earth Day, resigned. The home builder programs that were teaching architects and contractors how to build without a furnace were shut down. In 1985, the 30% federal investment tax credit for residential solar installations was allowed to expire. No replacement, no transition, just gone. In 1986, President Reagan had the solar panels removed from the White House roof. The removal made front pages, and it was understood as a statement. Cheap oil was back. The urgency that had driven the research evaporated, and the institutional infrastructure that had been training the building industry, the design tools, the builder programs, the tax incentives, the public-facing demonstrations, was dismantled in 4 years. But what made the disappearance permanent was the building codes. The model building codes adopted across most American jurisdictions in the 1980s and the 1990s were written for a standard construction template: stud frame walls, fiberglass bat insulation, and a conventional furnace. Those codes require minimum insulation R values. A trombe wall fails that test, not because it does not work, it demonstrably does, but because thermal mass works differently than fiberglass bats. It stores and releases heat. It does not have a static R value. The code does not have a category for it. So on paper, The design that cut heating bills by 84% in Princeton fails a building permit review in most American counties. And then there is the HOA layer. 40 million American households live in HOA communities. HOA organizations control exterior appearance. They can ban south-facing glass walls, dark exterior surfaces, unconventional roof lines, and earth-bermed construction, every architectural feature that makes passive solar work. In 21 states, there is no solar access law limiting this authority at all. In most of the remaining states, the laws that exist were written for photovoltaic panels, not for passive solar architecture. Your HOA can ban a trombe wall today in most of this country, and there is no statute that protects you. There is no supply chain behind a thermal mass wall. No company sells you the maintenance contract. No utility bills you monthly for the heat it produces. No manufacturer profits when you understand how it works. That is not a coincidence. That is why you have never been offered this design by a builder, a bank, or a home improvement magazine. So here's what you can actually do with this. If you're building a new home or doing a major renovation, this is one of the high return decisions in the entire project. A properly designed, passive solar home with south-facing orientation, thermal mass floor and wall, high-performance south glazing, and a roof overhang size for your latitude reduces heating needs by 50 to 80%. NREL publishes free passive solar design guides. The Passive House Institute US maintains a directory of architects trained in this work. The American Solar Energy Society, which has existed since 1954, has professional contacts and resources. The information is public. The physics is not proprietary. If you are in an existing home or renting, the entry point is the floor. Thermal mass is the principle. Concrete, tile, and brick on a south-facing floor store solar heat during the day and release it overnight. If your living room gets direct winter sun and you have carpet or hardwood on that floor, you are currently wasting that heat. Dark tile on a south-facing floor costs the price of the tile. No permit, no contractor, no HOA approval. This will not give you 84% savings, but it will reduce the hours your furnace runs, measurably, every sunny winter day. For the more committed version, the Morse patent from 1881 is in the public domain. The Kelbaugh wall design is not proprietary. A south-facing dark masonry surface, a layer of glass in front of it, and two vents, one at the bottom and one at the top, is something you can add to an existing south wall as a retrofit. Passive solar builders have documented the process. Forums exist. Case studies exist. The knowledge did not disappear. It just stopped being taught once the funding was cut. The design is 143 years old, built from materials that cost almost nothing, proven in a New Jersey winter, and documented by a government lab that employed 1,000 people before someone decided the research was not worth funding. So here is where things stand. You will pay $634 this winter to heat your home, possibly more. A house in Princeton proved in 1975 that a south-facing concrete wall could cut that bill by 84%. The principle behind that wall was patented in 1881. Ancient Greek cities were built around this idea 2,400 years ago, and the government lab that was bringing this technology into mainstream American home building had its budget cut by 77% in 1981 and never recovered. No one banned this design. No law says you cannot have a thermal mass wall. The system just was not rebuilt for it. Reject the idea that you need a new piece of technology to solve an ancient problem. The people who understand thermal mass are already building with it. They are paying $108 for a winter. They are not waiting for a utility company to offer them a better plan. There is no company that profits when you understand how a trombe wall works. That is not an accident. That is exactly why you have never seen it on the front page of a home improvement magazine. A lot of what this channel covers was nearly lost, not because it stopped working, but because the industry moved on to something more profitable. If this is the kind of thing that matters to you, subscribing and sharing is the most direct way to make sure it keeps being found. Next, a cooling system that predates air conditioning by 3,000 years. No electricity, no refrigerant, still functional in climates that reach 110 degrees Fahrenheit. And most building codes will not approve it. You do not have to pay $634 a winter. You never did.